Okay. So for the others, are you hearing me well, or I have to be vocal a little bit more?
Your voice is perfect. I can hear you.
Yes.
You can hear me.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it has something to do with the network, with the... Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's me. Welcome, Mr. Amy.
Thank you. Well, welcome aboard. I think the issue has now been corrected. We are live, and everything that we are discussing in this platform is being recorded. So first and foremost, I would love to say my heartfelt gratitude to the African Young Leaders Foundation for the opportunity to serve, for the opportunity to host this peace conference in celebration of the International Peace Day. It is a privilege and an honor to be able to come together as different young people all over Africa to share and learn from each other, and pollination of ideas on how best we can go as a continent. Welcome aboard. Do I have people in the house? I'm someone who loves to communicate and get feedback so that I know that I'm not alone. I'm not chatting alone.
Hello. Thank you.
I believe we also have participants who are participating on YouTube. Do feel free, do feel welcome. We welcome you, and your contribution is most welcome. And once again, I welcome you to our online peace conference. So, and the question goes on. So why peace building? Why would you go with peace building? The theme for this conference is cultivating a culture of peace, inspiring young leaders for a peaceful future. Well, in a rapidly changing world where young people are at the forefront, right, of shaping the future of today, the African Young Leaders Foundation recognizes the importance of fostering a culture of peace. And this is the reason why we are gathered here tonight. And what is peace? Peace is not just merely the absence of conflict, but it is a dynamic and ongoing process that requires active participation, that requires creativity, that requires commitment from our side to non-violence. So as we celebrate the International Day of Peace, this online conference aims to inspire, and not just inspire, but to empower the young people to embrace and promote peace in their community and beyond. Once again, my name is Yvonne Tsumbirani. I'm from Zimbabwe, and I'll be your moderator for tonight. I'm a 2 times published author, a dreams mentor, and a motivational speaker. So I'll move on before I introduce the first speaker for tonight. The primary objective why we are gathered here tonight of this conference is to inspire young people to cultivate peace by empowering through dialogues, which is we are going to witness here, through active participation, and to highlight diverse perspective, to understand that, to appreciate each other's perspective when it comes to peace building, and to encourage creative expression on what is peace, why is peace building important, and to foster a community of peace building. Ladies and gentlemen, before I go any further, allow me to thank Mr. Patrick Kofi Benin for the opportunity to be here tonight and to be able to serve in the founders of African Young Leaders Foundation. Thank you. So, do I still have people who are following?
Yes, ma.
All right. Thank you so much. I believe communication is about getting feedback rather than talking to myself. So as I introduce our first speaker, allow me to introduce our first speaker, ladies and gentlemen, on panel
Hello.
1 on the topic, the power of dialogue, how conversation can transform conflicts. And before I go any further, allow me to read the biography of our speaker. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to introduce to you Mr. Gloria Sebuyange. I don't know if the pronunciation is well. He is a Congolese peace practitioner and current Fulbright scholar, and he's going to speak on the power of dialogue, how conversations can transform conflicts at our upcoming International Peace Day, which is happening right now. Mr. Glory holds a BA in Peace Building and Development from the Protest University of Rwanda, and he has been actively engaged in the peace process in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC. His role as program assistant for the Congo Peace Network, CPN, focused on empowering conflicts victims to actively participate in peace building processes. Over the past 5 years, Mr. Glory has been becoming a skilled facilitator of the Nonviolent Communication, NCV, and the Alternatives to Violence program, AVP, across Africa's Great Lakes region. He is also the founder of Talk Change, a platform dedicated to fostering peace and positive change in the DRC, the Great Lakes region, and beyond. Currently, Mr. Glory is pursuing a Master of Global Affairs with a focus on international peace studies at the University of Notre Dame, where he is researching how transitional justice can contribute to peace building and conflict resolution in conflict-torn societies, particularly in this country, the DRC. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Glory. Say, may you kindly take over.
Thank you so much, Yvonne, for a good introduction. I hope you can all hear me.
Yes, can.
Yeah.
Yes,
Great.
I can hear you.
All right. I may not need to introduce myself again since Yvonne has made a very long introduction. But of course, it's always good to just, confirm what has been said by yourself. And my name is Gloire, as Yvonne has said, from Congo. And one thing I can just say is that I'm connected from South Bend, Indiana, at the University of Notre Dame in the United States, where I'm pursuing my master's in international peace studies. So it's a great honor to be on with you tonight. And we're going to talk about an interesting topic, which is linked to our International Peace Day topic, cultivating the culture of peace. And I'm going to share my screen, and you let me know if you can see it, please.
Kimura kaka unga. Ana ujifata fasha mga ujeyo hana hoya.
We have some noise in the back.
Unga.
I think those can help us to mute the person. Yeah, can you all see my screen?
Yes, we
Yeah.
can.
Okay, great. So this is the topic that I am introducing, the power of dialogue, how conversations can transform conflicts. And I believe that this is not a new concept, maybe for most of us. We are young leaders, peace builders, so we can get it more in a form of sharing than lecturing or teaching, though for the sake of time, I may speak for the most of the time. We're talking about the power of dialogue and how conversations can transform conflicts. And the topics I will focus more, I will talk on the basics of conflicts. I know we are all used maybe to the themes about or the concepts of conflicts. And also we'll talk about dialogue. We'll talk about dialogue in conflict resolution. We'll talk a little bit about the UN resolution 2625. Then also we'll talk about the conclusion and some reference. So introducing conflicts. Conflicts are misunderstandings or battles or struggles between people within individuals, groups, or organizations who may have needs or ideas, beliefs, values, or goals between themselves. And one thing about conflict is that conflicts are integral part of human society. So we cannot live without conflict because it will always be part of life and it has always been part of life. And conflicts are inevitable, but we need to just make a clear distinction between conflict and violence because we cannot avoid conflict, but we can avoid violence. And some of the causes of conflicts, we can see on this chart, we have like poor communication. When people cannot manage to communicate properly, we have the lack of compromise, we cannot reach a common ground. Then when our needs are not met, it also leads us to have conflicts. And also on the other side, we can look at prejudice when people believe that, okay, all Congolese are like this maybe, or Burundians or Rwandans or Kenyans are like this. It's always like more in a negative way. And then that can lead us to conflict. And at an interpersonal level, you will see that maybe you are considering someone from a different tribe, a different cultures in a given way, and then that leads you to be intolerant towards them and be in conflict with them. We can also see that intolerance also brings conflict or fuels conflict. And that also leads us to self-interest when everyone is trying to pursue their own needs or interests. That leads us to conflict. We can also look at ignorance. When people are not educated enough, when people do not have information about what is happening, what is going on, the context, that also leads us to conflict. We cannot ignore the fact that the desire for power also leads us to be in conflict with other people. And I think most of us, as Africans, we're experiencing this in some of our countries where, conflicts over resources, over power, are leading us to be in civil wars and other kinds of conflicts. We also have the lack of empathy when you don't feel like the business of others are, concern you, and also making assumptions that assuming that the other person is behaving the other way or the other person is a certain way. Then we have like some levels of conflict. We have intrapersonal conflict, which is a conflict between you and you. I think if that is not clear, yeah, you just you can stop me and maybe ask, and then I clarify something. Is that okay, Yvonne? If maybe I talk about something which is not clear, it's fine. I can clarify it, or maybe we ask at the end of the session. I don't know how you prepare to make it.
we had scheduled for questions and answer at the end. People have to keep their questions or
Okay,
keep
great.
posting.
All right, thank you. Then we have an interpersonal conflict, which is a conflict that you may have between you and another person. Then we have an intra-group, which means within the group, a conflict which arises between the group. And then we have an intergroup conflict, which can be a conflict which is between one group and another group. And then we have an intrastate group, which can be a conflict which is within the state. And an interstate conflict would be like a conflict between a state and another state, like the conflict between Palestine and Israel, Russia, Ukraine. This would be like more in an interstate conflict. We have quickly, I'll talk about some conflict management styles where people respond to conflicts in different ways. We have more like, most of the time when we are in conflict with somebody, we tend to compete. You know, if I have to win, maybe the argument I have to compete with the other person so that maybe they also know that I am someone very important. I am someone to be respected. And I think most of us will really be in the first category of competition, where you're trying to compete with the other person to show them that you're also someone valuable. They should not neglect you. Then the other category of conflict management style is avoidance. When you look at a conflict, there is a conflict, you try to avoid it. You try to run away from it. And then you say, no, that's not for me, you run. And the other one is accommodation. You are in conflict with someone is maybe, let's say, interpersonal relations, and then you've been calling someone for 10 times and they don't pick up the call. You guys say, oh, that's fine, I don't care. Just get used to the way of doing of someone. Then the other category, compromising, which is like finding a common ground, 50-50. Then you sacrifice some parts of your rights for the sake of the other person. Also sacrifices like 50% of their privilege or rights, and then you come together and find a common ground. And the last one is collaboration. When we are in conflict with someone, we try to collaborate. We try to hear from the needs of other person, and we have a common ground for the good of all. Then a dialogue itself is a fair exchange of information that allows people in conflict to talk and hear each other to reach a consensus. It cannot only be like people in conflict, but when you are having misunderstanding with someone, and then you sit and talk about the issue. And this term comes from a Greek word, which is dialogos. I don't know if I pronounce it well. I'm not Greek, you'll understand. But the first word, like dia, means through or between. And logos or logo means speech or meaning of words. When you put them together, dialogue, it makes through words or things that flow in words. You see, like there is an importance of words in what we are talking about. When you put dialogue together, the Greek people like came up with this idea to settle their issues between themselves, because they knew that there is no society without conflict. So when you put it together, it comes like things that flow from words. When there is a conflict, people sit and they talk about the issues between themselves. And then dialogue itself is different from debate or from monologue, because in debate, the vision or the aim is to win the debate or to lose. You should win and the opponent should lose. In dialogue, we search for a win-win solution. And in dialogue, we collaborate. Where in debate, it's more like oppositional. You're trying to oppose the other person. And dialogue brings you to be more open-minded, while conflict, debate will be like close-minded. You don't give a room to the other person. You only want to be listened to and to convince. And dialogue reveals, re-evaluates assumptions. You hear something and then you re-evaluate the assumptions you are having towards the other person. Where in debate, you defend your assumptions and try to show how much you are true, how much you are more valuable than the other person. In dialogue, we seek to understand. In debate, we seek to defend our positions. And in dialogue, we search for agreements. And in debate, we seek our differences. We try to find something that divides us. And that does not help us when we are in conflict, because the most important thing we can do is to try to talk about our issues and collaborate. Then how can we hold constructive dialogue, conversations to address our conflicts? There is an important quote that I came across when I was preparing this topic, that as long as you're talking, you can't be shooting. And that's obvious. Someone with a gun, they can, if they are talking, they can't be shooting. That means the time they are shooting, they are not talking. But if you are talking, you can't be shooting at the same time. And one important thing we can consider in this process is active listening. We try to understand the perspectives of others, their needs and concerns without interruption. There is this quote of Marshall Rosenberg that I like, that we see each other's humanness at the needs level. When we listen to others, we listen to their needs. What do they need? What do I need? And that's what makes us to be human, when we can consider the needs of the other person, listening to them, their stories, their perspectives. And then we respect the opinions and beliefs of others, regardless whether we agree with them or not. You respecting someone does not necessarily mean that you like them or that you agree with them. Sometimes we agree to disagree, and we respect people's opinions and beliefs, regardless of whether we like them, we agree with them or not. The other important part of this would be empathy. When we try to give empathy to other people, to the other group, the person you may regard as a criminal may also be victim of that situation. Most of us who have heard stories of violence, things like genocide or massacres, you realize that even the people we consider as criminals in the community, they are also victims. Someone who have killed like 5 people, they are also mentally not safe. So they are also victims, however much we can regard them as victims. So we need to connect with them, give them empathy, try to talk to them and connect with them at a human level. But of course, before we give empathy, we need also to give empathy to ourselves in situation of conflict or violence. Then the other point we can consider is observe without judgment. Nobody likes being judged, even if they know they are wrong. I think we all grew up in that sense, that you don't like to be judged, because from the time they judge you, the first thing that comes to mind is that you want to defend yourself. You want to justify yourself why you did what you did. But when you listen to someone, not with the intention of judging them, but with the intention of listening to their need, listening to their stories, their perspective without judgment, they become more open to you. Then I like this other quote of Marshall Rosenberg, who is the founder of nonviolent communication. You can read one of his books, Nonviolent Communication. Then he said that when we judge others, we contribute to violence. And that's what I was talking about. When you judge someone, you give them a room to justify themselves, to explain themselves. The other point we can consider is to be ready to change our position. We cannot have a dialogue if we assume we hold the whole truth, and we don't want to have that challenge. And in most of the institutions, you'll see that we assume that we have the whole truth, so the other person does not matter at all. The truth of the other person does not count. And we cannot have dialogue if we assume we know everything, if we assume we have the whole truth. From the Gandhi perspective of nonviolence, we can also seek for a nonviolent solution. Remember that violence will not bring a solution, but only escalate the situation. And he said that I object to violence because when it appears to do good, the good is only temporary. The evil it does is permanent. So when we're trying to dialogue, we are giving peace a chance, because violence will not solve the problem. Of course, some people believe in violence, and I don't, judge them, but I do believe in nonviolence. I do believe in peaceful resolution of conflicts. And the 35th President of the United States, John Kennedy, also said that those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable. If we think that peace is impossible, peaceful resolution is impossible to achieve, then we will give violence much power, and violent revolution will be inevitable because we feel like we don't have any other option. But in this way, we are encouraged to give dialogue, to give peaceful means a chance to solve our differences. And I tried to come up with the UN resolution 2625 in conflict resolution, because when we've just talked about dialogue at a personal, interpersonal level, but even among nations, is something big. Even among nations, we can see that this resolution enforces cooperation among states. Sorry, I wrote states, but I meant states. And all states have equal rights and duties under international law. They also say that no state shall intervene in the internal affairs of another state. And from that, we can see that the other point of it is that states shall settle their disputes by peaceful means, negotiations, or dialogue. We can see that dialogue is also important not only at interpersonal level, but also within states. And that's the aim of this resolution, to try to solve, to build friendship between nations, and also bring nations to solve their differences in a peaceful way, through dialogue, through negotiations, and no use of force or threat among states unless it's for self-defense. And then this is where respect of human rights and fundamental freedoms of all without discrimination comes in. So as a conclusion, as we apply dialogue to settle our daily disputes, let's remember some conflict resolution values, such as respect for all. We need to respect other people's opinions, other people's views, other people's perspectives. And then we consider their justice, because when we are not respecting other people's views, we don't have time to dialogue with them. We don't have time to listen to them. And also we consider inclusion. We are coming from backgrounds where we are divided along ethnic groups, tribes, and all kinds of institutions like religion, sometimes religious affiliations. But in this context, as peace builders, we are encouraged to include everyone in the process, to consider ourselves. And that's where the Ubuntu perspective comes in, where we are trying to consider that I am because you are. And if I am because you are, if I don't consider you as a full human being, that means I'm dehumanizing myself. And that's when the respect of human dignity comes in, when we are trying to connect at a human level, trying to know that we're all humans, despite of all these differences. And therefore, we should give ourselves a chance to listen to each other, to talk to each other, and solve our differences peacefully, through dialogue, through conversations, through negotiations. And then we give nonviolence a chance. As I said, violence will not work. And of course, through history, you can see that it has not worked, and I'm not sure it will work at any point in this world. Ending with this quote of Paul Farmer, he said that the idea that some lives matter less is the root of all that is wrong with the world. When we consider that, okay, some are superhumans, some lives are really important than the lives of other people, or this tribe is much better than this other tribe, or this religion is better than the other, or I am good, you are bad, and I'm right, you're wrong. That is all which is wrong with the world. And if we consider that the lives of the other person really matter, we give them a chance, we listen to them, we understand their perspectives, and we settle our differences more peacefully. I try to bring some references. There are many sources I consulted, but maybe we can just look at this. And then thank you for your kind attention.
Wow. Thank you so much. Oh,
Yeah.
so on the poll dialogue, how conversation can transform conflicts. Mr. Glory is saying that when we judge others, we contribute to violence. And if you have any questions, if you have burning questions, keep them. We are going to tackle them at the end of this session. So at this point in time, without wasting much time, allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce to you our second speaker on panel 2 on the topic Art as a Catalyst for Peace, exploring the role of arts in fostering peace and promoting a culture of peace. With Mr. Emmanuel Jato Wepikong, I don't know if the right pronunciation, and once again, allow me to read his profile. Mr. Jato Emmanuel holds a BA in Peace Building and Development from the President University of Rwanda, and he is also a former student at the Tokyo University of Foreign Studies, Japan, where he studied Japanese culture, focusing on region, learning the Japanese language, and exploring peace-building processes and initiatives in Japan. Mr. Jato has extensive experience working with the youth of Cameroon, Nigeria, as well as those in East Africa, addressing conflict situations in Anglophone Cameroon, Northern Nigeria, and the Great Lake region. He has participated as a facilitator in various workshops and served as a consultant in training community women mediators. Mr. Jato has also facilitated workshops with youth and teachers, focusing on building peace from the grassroots level. His career in education includes serving as an elementary school teacher, further showcasing his dedication to peace and development. Driven by a passion for volunteerism and peace building, Mr. Jato has collaborated with several organizations in Cameroon, where he spearheaded programs for those organizations. He is also a nonviolent communication trainer, a member of the Alternatives to Violence Program International, and a conflict analyst and a trainer in trauma first aid. He is also a teacher trainer for peace education at the Pedagogic in Service Training Program, Cameroon. Mr. Jato currently serves as the head of peace building operations at Droves. Oh, the pronunciation here comes. Bamedo, a group of young people leveraging their resources and skills to solve global issues using local perspective through filmmaking, training, and global education. And lastly, he's also a member of the Cameroon Youth Mediator Network for Peace Building with the local youth corner Cameroon, and he is actively advocates against gender-based violence while promoting education for the girl child. Ladies and gentlemen, as we have heard his profile, he's quite a man, and one thing I have noted from his profile is he is a man who is patient. When you work with toddlers, you ought to be patient. So over to you, Mr. Jato.
Good evening or good afternoon. Thank you so much for welcoming me into this page. And I'm so glad to be here with people of like minds. And like you rightly said, I am Jato Emmanuel Webngom. I'm pleased to be here with you people to share on this topic, which is timely and a transformative one. So I don't know if you are getting me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Let me share my screen. Just can you see my screen?
It is still loading, but maybe it's a connection issue.
Oh,
It will probably take some time.
oh, sorry for that. That's one issue we face as Africans, so I hope you'll bear with me.
Or you can maybe disconnect, then share again, because I think it's taking some time. What do you think?
Okay.
Or like that?
Let me try to share again. Can you see the screen now?
Yes.
Okay, let me try to disconnect my video, please.
We can see it. Yeah.
Okay, we are going to be talking, we know we are celebrating International Peace Day, like Yvonne Riley introduced the topic. So my topic of discussion is art as a catalyst for peace, creative expression in peace building. And we are going to be talking under these topics, the power of art in peace building, or as our introduction, and art as a tool for dialogue and reconciliation, which our first speaker also talked about it. And we also talk about healing trauma through creative expression using art, and also inspiring social change through art, and also see how art can be used in cross-cultural understanding. And then we talk about our conclusion. And our objective for this discussion is to explore the role of art in peace building and provide a platform for youth, for young people to express their thought and feelings about peace and social cohesion through creative activities. And also as to show how art has been used as a powerful tool for fostering peace, promoting reconciliation, and healing communities torn apart by conflict. I might love maybe to ask the question, what does peace mean to you? But I will change the question to ask, should we as Africans be celebrating International Day of Peace, knowing that we have a decade of conflicts in DRC, conflict in Central African Republic, in Nigeria, in Cameroon? Should we as African youth be celebrating International Day of Peace? Maybe one or two persons, somebody can respond.
I think we should celebrate peace. It's right for us to do so because however much we have. Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, however much we have instabilities there and there, but we also have to appreciate what we have in some other regions. So I think it is worth it, worth celebrating it.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, another
Okay,
person.
hello. Another person. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, thank you so much for your presentation. Okay, as a Cameroonian and I'm based in the Southwest, I don't think I should be celebrating International Day of Peace because I've not been in peace for a very long time, since 2017. And how can I be celebrating peace when we who don't understand what peace is all about? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maureen. Yes, so we see if we keep this conversation open, we will have a lot of discussion. Like Yvonne Riley said, we'll have question and contribution at the end. So we will just post now so you can keep your thought and we will share at the end. So you see, people have different understanding of peace or different meaning of peace based on their own situation or where they are found. So peace, we cannot say peace has a definite definition. So my focus is about art, the use of art. And one thing about art is the expression of life of the community embodying values, aspiration, and experience in a form that are accessible to the public. And art can play a transformative role in peace building by providing creative medium through which people can express themselves and confront difficult situation and rebuild relationship. And we also see that art raise awareness and foster dialogue in our communities. And then we talk about creative expression in peace building. So we talk about the power of art in peace building. What is the power of art? We can see that art has been a universal, or it's been considered as a universal language, which crossing borders and cultures and even conflict. In the context of peace building, creative expression without through thought, and it can be visual, it can be through music, theater, or literature. And it offers an alternative way to engage people in dialogue, trauma healing, and it brings about social change, and art reach through heart of many people, as we'll be seeing through our discussion. And we think of, when we think of traditional approach to peace building, we often think of political negotiation, signing of treaties, diplomacy. However, art play an important role in addressing the human side of conflict, helping individuals and communities to process trauma and rebuild trust. People, where we can use art in healing and trauma healing and aspiring social change in different contexts. And we can also see art as a tool for dialogue and reconciliation. In many conflict zones, direct conversation about peace becomes so difficult due to some deep rooted grievances and mistrust. And we talk about the case of like Cameroon, for those in the Northwest and Southwest. It is very difficult for people of the Northwest and Southwest to sit on the table or on the negotiation table, maybe with the government, because of because of lack of trust between the both sides. And there's also the issue of asymmetric power relation. And art has been used like a bridge. It allows for indirect dialogue where words might fail, through sharing artistic expression or experience. An individual from opposite side of the conflict can come together to explore common human emotion such as lost and longing for peace. Like the organization where I work with, Drowsy Cameroon, we bring people together from different communities, because in Cameroon we also have our ethnic issues, people from different groups who are artists who come together, and then we do drawing and painting. And after that, this help us to break some stereotype, like the prejudice the first speaker talked about. This help us to break some of this stereotype. And we also use music. There's a big role in music. Like they said, music does not need permission. Like the Mubat of Nigeria said, music does not need permission to enter your soul or your spirit. And sometimes when a music is being played, you just start dancing or singing to it without somebody inviting you to sing. So we have a local musician that we bring them together to try to promote right peace songs. And with this conflict in Cameroon, we use it to bring about reconciliation. And we can also go back to what happened in South Africa after the apartheid. They use also music for reconciliation and promotion of peace. Same thing like after the genocide in Rwanda. They like singing that music when a Rwandese cannot pass somewhere and a Rwandese music is played and the person does not stop by to sing or dance. So music is used for reconciliation and also as well as celebration and mourning. So this is how art plays an important role. And also the use of poem. Also the young people we work with, they also do poem to promote or to fight against hate speech. Because one thing in Cameroon, there is a lot of hate speech going on. I think we can call it dehumanizing language. I think they put it hate speech so that to modify it. There is a lot of dehumanizing language going on, which is fueling the conflict, a lot of propaganda, and some of these youth use poem to pass or to fight against this hate speech. And also my brother, the Coffee Ben, he has also written some poems on peace, which you can follow him on social media. And this helped go a long way to reach out to large masses or to a large population, the use of poem. And also spoken word is also being used as way of expressing or to promote peace in our society. And then we also talk about healing trauma through creative expression. Conflict leaves deep psychological scar in people. People who are being displaced, people who see their loved one being killed or witnessing the loss of their parent, or maybe a wife seeing the husband being shot, like what is going on in Anglophone. Many people have lost their beloved one, and that is the same thing that goes on in conflict affected region. Like what we do as young people, we try to bring some of these children together, and then we organize theater. We organize theater so that people can express themselves. And what I have been doing so far with some schools, with some secondary schools, I've been doing to express or trying to do trauma healing through drawing and painting. And in this first picture, these are some school children. I think they were in Form 4 and 3 that came up with this drawing. And they showed this drawing how they were living before the crisis, and how there was peace, how there was beauty. You can see the birds flying and enjoying, children playing ball. And they also came up with this other image. And this image is showing what is going on now. As you can see from the images, people are being killed, there is shooting. You see trees, the nature is being destroyed. You can see a car at that angle there. The road is being blocked. And the children cannot speak this out. And then what they did was showing it through art, through drawing and painting. And what they see went ahead to do was to come out with this picture. They want life to come back to normalcy. And this is their vision, that can life come back again. This is the same thing that is going on in other African countries that they are facing violence, what people aspire for. And this is children now who cannot have maybe a platform where they can share their own thought, their ideas. They use art to express themselves for peace. And I also came up with, or I passed across this quote. It said, art enables us to find ourselves and lose ourselves at the same time. Meaning that we can use art to express our sadness, our deep sorrows, our grievances. And after the expression, we cannot come out from that traumatic situation that we are facing. This is what I understand from this quote. And then we talk about inspiring social change through art. Art also has potential to inspire activism by reflecting on the causes and consequences of conflict. When we use some of these, whether painting, drawing, and singing, because also what we did in some schools around, we use school gate or the school fence to do images that promote peace. And then this has inspired social change, where also people have now used it to promote peace without talking, just with the painting. And we can also see cross-cultural understanding through artistic collaboration, where we have, like I earlier talked about, Cameroon has a lot of ethnic groups of about 200 and something who also have their own differences. So we try to bring people from these different groups together or different communities to come together and share their story, what they are going through, what they are facing. And this helps them to bridge or to overcome the stereotype that they have through their artwork, through their drawing, through their singing, and sharing with one another to see that they all have a common goal of promoting peace. And we also see it helps in cultural exchange. We have Art for Peace, which is one of the program we do, which often bring people together, and we discuss how we can help one another to overcome some of these our differences in our communities and to promote the peaceful coexistence. And we also see art and the future of peace building. What is art for the future of peace building? As we look forward for the future of peace building, we can try to integrate art in our programs so that it can bring about this understanding, to see our differences, that allow people to share their thought in different expression, and recognizing that creative expression addresses the emotional social change within the society. And to conclude, we see that art serves as a catalyst for peace by fostering dialogue, trauma healing, and inspiring change and promoting understanding. It is a powerful tool that can bring people together across our differences to foster peace. As young peace builder, we should continue to embrace creative expression using our different means in our society to have a peaceful society. Thank you so much for your attention, and looking forward for your question and feedback.
much, say. Thank you so much, Mr. Jatu. And I believe everyone has got something, their home takeaway point that they have learned. And from my side, I have understood that the role of art in fostering peace, art plays a pivotal role, especially when it comes to music. Music does not need permission to penetrate through your soul and to bring healing. And we can use healing trauma through creative expression. Thank you so much. And those with questions, kindly keep posting them and keep keeping them so that we will discuss them at the end of this, before we just end this session. So allow me, ladies and gentlemen, once again in this point, as Mr. Jatwe said, that the role of art plays a pivotal role when it comes to peace building. So on creative expression, allow me to call upon Pailoya Sonia from Uganda, so that she or he can give us what they have prepared for us tonight. Over to you, Pailoya.
Hello everyone. Are you getting me?
Hello, yes.
I'm Piloya Sonia Vivian from Uganda, a student of Bara University of Science and Technology. I prepared a small poem about peace. The title is The Scars of War and the Seeds of Peace. I'm actually a tribe in northern Uganda, and back then in 1987, there was a war that actually did a lot of damage. Till now, the north of Uganda is not as developed as other parts of Uganda. So I'm going to be doing some screen sharing of the poem. It's just a 1 minute poem, approximately 2 minutes. So give me some small time. Let me see. Screen share. Yes. Can you all see?
Yes, we can see.
Yes, I can see.
Yes. I'll be reading the poem myself. The North still remembers the darkness that once held its stand, leaving an indelible scar. Years may pass, the pain still remains. The wounds may heal, but the stains stay. As we gathered around the fireside, our elders' stories unfolded. Long ago, deep inside the stories, I saw pain, echoes of gunshots, victims' pleas, a trauma indeed, passed from generation to generation. Houses burnt or displaced with nowhere to take refuge but the thickets of the wild, hiding from the ruthless rebels. Children crying and wailing in hunger and horror at the risk of their parents being exposed. Many were lost to the war, some lost body parts, both young and old alike. But in the hearts of the survivors, a fire burned, a flame of hope, souls that yearned for peace to heal, for love to mend the broken pieces. We honor the scars that remain and yet acknowledge the pain. Though time has passed, the wounds still ache, the memories of war's horrors still awake. Since the end of the war, we have been sowing seeds of peace in the soil of forgiveness, letting tears of the past fertilize the ground and the love of the present heal the wounds. As the hope of the future guides us on to a world where peace is undone, though the war is past gone, its legacy stays. Our collective memory paving the way to a time we no longer feel the pain and allow peace to reign. Thank you so much for listening. That's all I had.
Wow. I felt you could just continue and go on and go on. For love to heal, as Mr. Jatwa said, that creative expression can be used for reconciliation. not just reconciliation, but with our past, with our wounds. This was a powerful a creative expression, Miss Sonia. Thank you so much. So next we have poetry performance from Mohammed Awao Zekara from Nigeria. Over to you. Mohammed. Mohammed, are you still connected? All right. It seems like he has disconnected. So allow me to move on. Okay, moving on to panel 3, we have leadership, youth leadership in peace building, the stories of impact. Allow me to introduce to you Chume Alunkwe Ewane. May you kindly take over and present to us what you have.
Hello, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Please, if you can get me, I'm sure you can send a thumb or something like a sticker to show that we are connected and talking together.
We can hear you.
Great. I'm Njume Alunge Ewane from Cameroon. I want to first of all thank Africa Young Girls Foundation for the opportunity they have given me to express my story. Unfortunately, I couldn't have a presentation about my story because we are a kind of blackout for some days now. So we're just trying to see that we receive that in our batteries to get connected today. So I'm going to share my story on how we use peace in leadership to empower our communities. Back then, in my small community where I come from, people believe in so much in agriculture. So, but there was this kind of problem, maybe fighting over customers when they get to the market. So the first thing is we are trying to identify what the problem is, because like the first presenter said, peace is not just the presence of war. With the absence of war, rather. So peace is not just the absence of war, but we see that we have other small conflicts that will make peace be not a present factor in our society. So when I found out that these people maybe because of the gap youth find themselves maybe engaging themselves in these communities, they became very, very frustrated. They found themselves that they are included, excluded, and then this resulted to conflict. So first, I identified the problem. What motivated me to find a solution to this problem is I had this belief that when there is justice, equity, and maybe everybody is included in every aspect of life, be in your community, be in your school, be in whatsoever thing you are doing in life, you find yourself that, okay, I'm an important person in this community and then, or in the society. But when you begin to find yourself being excluded in certain things, maybe you are marginalized whatsoever, you think that, okay, maybe these people actually want the war. So let's go for war. The start of conflict, and then there'll be absence of peace. So I said, okay, I'm going to be like an agent of peace in my community. So how did I take this? I used leadership. So by fostering my leadership skills, I had to get into promoting dialogue, maybe meeting people through small groups, and then we had to talk about maybe a few things. So I thought this was the bridge that will help me to make build my community, and then maybe come out with something like a peace building arena where people could come. We share a few stories, maybe what is your problem, maybe the challenges you are facing in one aspect of life or the other. How do we think we can move our community further? So we had these discussions. We discussed in smaller groups. We started with 5 persons, and we saw ourselves getting more persons interested in the event. So through my leadership skills, we organized small events. Again, it can be, well, it was 2 games. We had men games. We had to involve women. We had storytelling groups where we met to discuss smaller stories. Fortunate or unfortunately, I had to leave the small village to move to town, maybe to pursue my higher education. Arriving in town, after my experiences in volunteering, I decided to set up a foundation that is well known today, Lucas Foundation, where I have a team of personnel that I'm managing, as well as volunteers. So we have something that we are trying to develop now, like a peace academy, where we train small youths or younger youths to become peace ambassadors. So we have this project that is coming up where we have an arena where we bring out youths from different communities, schools, and other small groups, and then we discuss on them topics about peace, how they can promote peace in their various venues, like schools, starting from home, start among themselves, schools, and then maybe the community. We know that the importance of peace in every society, so we should learn to encourage youth and then get youth involved in promoting peace, because we are the people who are going to enjoy these benefits when we have a peaceful society and a peaceful Africa. So this initiative has been successful so far. We have been able to engage more than 450 youths in our initiative in both schools and then other small communities, especially when we go out for our projects. We emphasize, for example, we have our topics or our project title that are linking with peace. So first of all is we always have this aspect of maybe promoting small talks before we start our any activity that we want to start. So we encourage this. It can be through games. We have been organizing even virtual games for ourselves, our staffs, and so on and so forth. So my future plan again is we want to not just to extend this our peace building ambassador initiative only in our foundation or in Cameroon. We're hoping that we have arena like what the African Young Foundation is doing, where we can group other persons in different countries or different parts of the world, so that they can be all partake in this initiative, because we know the kind of situation we're facing in Africa. If I talk about Cameroon, we're talking about DRC and what have you. So we know the kind of situation we find ourselves, because if we don't have peace, we don't have development. Instead of having development, we are having destruction. People are coming, people die every day, and so on and so forth. So we want to have a future plan of getting expanding this initiative to other communities in other parts of the world. And we hope that we are going to incorporate both in-person and digital platforms so that we can have a broader audience. We also aim to create, like I talk about the Youth Peace Ambassador, not just in Cameroon, but we encourage that. We hope that in future we are going to partner with African Young Foundation so that we can have something like an academy where we train youth ambassadors for peace initiatives, so that when we train and equip these young leaders, they can replicate our successes in their own areas, because they say youth of today are leaders of tomorrow. So the same position we are now, we might not find ourselves there tomorrow. So we need to train people that are going to succeed over us. So I think Africa Youth Fund, the Young Leaders Foundation, should consider this initiative that we have like a peace ambassador program or academy, where these young leaders of peace ambassadors will be trained and drilled on maybe initiative that leads to the creation of peace. A call for action that I'm saying that I'm inviting all of us to join for a sustainable peace, whether it can be through partnership, it can be through fundings, where we can fund programs for this initiative, it can be through volunteerism. And we hope that if we all join our hands to promote this initiative, then I think we can reach higher heights. Because of time constraint, I think I'm going to end here, but we hope that we take the last message, which is just that this message is for Africa Young Foundation. I want that we should take into consideration that if we can train peace ambassadors in each maybe country, that we have branches for this organization, I think we are going to be talking more of peace than conflicts that we have in Africa. Thank you very much for the opportunity. In case there is any question, please drop it out in the chat box. I'm sure I'm going to react that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Awene, for the powerful, impactful story of impact. And from your story, I have learned one thing, that through collaboration we are able to build strong ties that can be able to fight conflict instead of discussing conflict. Yet we'll have to work on peace building. And allow me to introduce our next presenter on youth leadership in peace building. Over to you, Nyamamuntu Oliver. You kindly take over. Oliver, are you still in the house?
Yes, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. I'm sorry I cannot put on my video, but we can keep proceeding. My name is Olive Nyinaomuntu. I'm from Rwanda. I co-found an organization called Nyinaomuntu Initiative. For those who doesn't speak or understand Kinyarwanda, Nyinaomuntu means a mother of someone. Nyinaomuntu Initiative is a non-profit organization that works on gender equality and inclusion by focusing on social and economic empowerment for young girls and women, particularly teen mothers living in rural areas from age 14 to 25 years old. Nyinaomuntu Initiative started in 2022 December with the purpose of addressing lack of job opportunities and access to finance for young girls and women, particularly teen mothers living in rural areas. Sorry?
You can go on. I think it's a person who's talking in the background.
Okay, great. I was saying that Nyinaomuntu Initiative started in 2022 December with the purpose of addressing lack of job opportunities and access to finance for young girls and women, particularly teen mothers living in rural areas, whereby the survey we conducted in that time shows that 78% of young mothers were not able to afford basic needs and wants for their kids. That leads to mental health issues, increase of poverty in their community, increase of prostitutes, street kids, and increase of unwanted pregnancy. When I was born, my mom was 17 years old and my dad was 20. Being born in a family of teenagers or young people wasn't easy for them to afford basic needs, wants that every child could need. And this ends up me with growing up in another family. Then when I was in high school, I used to see my fellow girls getting pregnant and dropped out from school. Nothing comes in my mind apart from seeing their kids took away to go to be raised either with their stepmothers or with other family members who are able to afford basic needs for those kids. After completing my college, I come up with an idea of giving back to the community because someone supported me to be who I am now. What can I do to support other young mothers or other young girls who dropped out from school because of early pregnancies, for them to be able to raise their kids by themselves without depending to someone else. That's where the initiative comes from. And now we are working in Kamonyi district, Musambila sector. Since we started, we have been able to impact 121 young mothers. 57 of them who has acquired hard skills, where we provide vocational training in tailoring and crafting for them to have a skills that can help them to start their own income-generating activities. But also at Ninamon Initiative, we don't provide only vocational training, but we empower to transform by providing vocational training in tailoring and crafting, but also mentorship sessions or programs in sexual reproductive health to avoid the history to repeat again, providing gender-based violence information for them to be aware and to know their rights, providing business and entrepreneurship skills to support and empower them and equip them with skills that can help them to learn small businesses and to sustain them, and also leadership skills for them to be able to boost their confidence and also taking decision according to themselves without relying on someone else. Particularly our main goal is to make sure that girls and women living in the rural areas, particularly teen mothers, are self-resilient and self-reliant for themselves as well as for their kids. The future goal of Ninamon Initiative is to have Women Creative Center, where I'll be hosting at least 50 mothers or 50 young girls and women living in areas to acquire hard skills and to acquire mentorship sessions and different sessions. But we're also looking forward to include digital literacy school, where people can be able to access internet and to use laptops for them to be on the table. As you can see in these days, digital is learning the world, for them to be on the same level as others. As I say, as a young people, I cannot solve every problem, but if we put our hands together, we can make it, we can do a great things together. So I'm asking you to start small by small, because you cannot even wait until you have like $1 million to start something. But if you have an idea, be fearless to start putting actions. Be fearless to start doing something, because you cannot start maybe impacting 121 young mothers, but you can start with only one. Or either it's a lack of employment in your community, either it's malnutrition in your community, or it's language barriers in your community. Whatever challenges it is in your community, it's not about how many people, it's not about how much have you invested in it, but it's about how many people, how many lives have you transformed, have you impacted in your community. Thank you.
Yvonne, I think you are muted.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was muted. My apologies. Thank you so much, Miss Oliver, for the impactful story. And I believe that stories are more impactful than any presentation that we can have. And for the great work that you are doing, continue. And thank you so much for the words of encouragement that we need to be fearless if you want to do something. It's not about how many things that we have built, but how many people's life have we impacted within our communities. And thank you so much once again. And on the youth leadership in peace building, I'll have one more, Miss Oyaminte Fesan. May you kindly take over and share your story. Thank you so much.
You just murdered my name, but good evening, everyone. My name is Ayomide, or Ayo for short. I don't know if it's possible for me to share my screen. I will just try to do that now and see. Yeah, I think I can. Good evening, everyone, once again. Okay. I'm still able to see my screen. I'm not sure why. Sorry, Chris. Just a few seconds. Okay, fine. May I please confirm that you can see my screen? Please, can you see my screen?
It is still loading.
Hello?
You can for a few seconds. Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. All right. So good evening, everybody, once again. And thank you so much, Olive, for sharing your story. Right. It's really, really inspiring. And for me, I'm like, oh, you're the best person to speak before I actually start my own presentation. Right. So just a few seconds to introduce the AYLF Teenage Pregnancy Program, Prevention and Support Program that we are kickstarting in October. Right. So we've been working together, myself and a group of national presidents, and also some board members and team members of AYLF in general. And we've been working on this particular project we've titled TPPSP, which says Teenage Pregnancy Prevention and Support Program. And it's just in sync with what Olive also is doing in our space, right? So what's our objective? Basically, we are supporting teenage girls and young mothers in Africa across providing them with three basic solutions. One is access to education, two, access to healthcare, and then three, economic empowerment opportunities. So with this project, we seek to reduce the stigma that is associated with teenage pregnancy, promoting gender equality, and also improving the overall well-being of young mothers and children and their children in Africa. And we have four objectives for this project. For one, we want to reduce that stigma associated with teenage pregnancy across 6 target countries. I'll be telling you the countries in the next slide. Also equipping 600 teenage girls and young mothers for year one. That's between October 2024 and October 2025. We want to empower at least 100 teenage girls and young mothers by October 2025 with education, healthcare access, and skill for economic empowerment. Also, we are going to be building partnership with local governments, schools, and healthcare providers, and also organizations and NGOs across board to also offer long-term support to these young mothers. So what's our target our target country for year one? We are targeting based on our assessments, research, and also availability of responsible persons or human resource. We'll be targeting Kenya, Cameroon, Zimbabwe, Ghana, Rwanda, and Nigeria in year one between October 2024 to October 2025. And we're targeting teenage girls, young mothers, and also their children, which is the next generation. So in 1 year, we want to reach 600 mothers in 1 year. And our main objective or goal again is to support these 600 teenage pregnant girls and young mothers in Africa by providing them with that access to education, healthcare, and economic empowerment opportunities while reducing that same stigma around teenage pregnancy in Africa. So here is just a program timeline, right, from beneficiary identification to the program wrap-up in year one. So between October 2024, you'll soon be seeing the flyers and designs for our launch come October 11, 2024. We want to establish partnership at this period with local governments, schools, and healthcare providers, identify potential local organizations and NGOs for collaboration also in each of these countries. So we're reaching out to you through our AYLF newsletter as well to seek support or partnership. Also seeking funding from potential donors or projects for project sponsorship. And then by November to December 2024, we will be organizing a rally or campaign to distribute educational material just to create awareness to these young mothers and teenage pregnant girls. Also target and reach at least 50 of them by the end of this year through our grassroots organizations, and then launch an awareness campaign across these countries just to promote the project and also call for volunteers that will be supporting for the entire year. And by January to February 2025, we're doing that baseline assessment. We'll be conducting initial survey to assess participant current education level, their health and financial situation, identifying their key needs and challenges, and also categorize the teenagers based on that assessment and begin to develop training materials to guide them ultimately, right? And then by February, March, we're supposed to also do a launch of the educational program, focusing on vocational training, entrepreneurship, and financial literacy, partner with healthcare providers for monthly checkup for these people, and also organize campaigns to reach more young women so that we can increase our participation to 100 per country. And we just run that through till October, where we'll now come around together to celebrate the success. By between July to September, there will be an opportunity for 10% of them, that's 60 of these young mothers, to actually participate in an entrepreneurship drive that would say they will give them access to start up their businesses if they come up with some idea. Of course, we'll guide them through the process in partnership with some business consultancy firm that we're beginning to partner with. We'll just guide them through that process of starting up their business and setting it up, and then also developing a pitch which they will present. And upon presentation, we're going to be giving gifts or awards, monetary awards to these people, to these winners, right? 60 of them out of the 600. That's 10% of them, to also build their capacity. And of course, if the funding allow, would increase that margin again to accommodate more of them. So what are the core deliverables for us within the year? First, we're providing support, educational, health, and economic empowerment support to these young mothers across 6 countries. There will be a monthly virtual mentorship that will kick off next year for them once the program commences. And also be collaborating with a lot of local partners to ensure that there's long-term program sustainability. For instance, the NGO that Olive has mentioned, for instance, if we partner with them, if they're successful, or not, they will definitely be successful. By the time they have this home where they are able to bring 50 of those young ladies, keep them there, help them to live, go through the rigor or the ordeal of a day-to-day life of being a teenage mother, and also just moving on for them to build their capacity so that they can even be of help to other teenage mothers in the nearest future. We'll be able to collaborate with people like this, and also more NGOs across board, or local partners, basically even schools, the local government, as the opportunity allow us to actually be of impact, of help to the society, to be of help to them. So this project, we don't intend to just do it and say, oh, after 1 year, everybody by 600 women, whatever happens to you, that's all. No, what we are going to do is to now plug them into all these established organizations in those countries or locations where we'll be executing the project, to ensure that there is still some monthly checkup, some interaction with them on the long run. And our goal is that by the time we are done with them, they're even able to empower others in their communities as well. Also, we're giving that micro grant or seed funding, like I said, to 60 of them. That's 10% of them at the project closeout ceremony in October 2025. So I'll just wrap up quickly now by just saying this is where we need your help, or where we need your support to come in, as we are just about to launch, right? We want to establish partnership. Please reach out to us next state to send a message to. I don't know if it's fine. If I can drop my email address, so we can send a message if we are interested in partnership, or send us a document, or reach out to me via LinkedIn or any form of communication, basically, or even your national president, to engage them, so we can partner with you. If you own a school, or you work with a school, or you're a healthcare provider, or you're affiliated with one, or you even just have an NGO or any organization, or you're just an individual that is passionate about this and you wouldn't mind volunteering, please, we're looking for every form of partnership that we can get that would help us propel this forward. Also, we are going to be collaborating with local organizations, like I said, NGOs per country, or for project implementation. We're also seeking funding. If you think that, oh, I can give individual donation towards this project, absolutely, we would show you. We'll definitely keep you accountable on how we're spending the funds, how we're expending the funds per country. And if you also are aware of any opportunity for funding that we can apply to, please let us know as well. And also engagement in awareness campaign. Please, once we launch online and offline, please do well to share it within your network. If you know if you identified any teenage pregnant lady within this country that we've mentioned that we're starting with, please do not hesitate to drop their contact or details discreetly with the national president as well. Of course, more details will be provided when we actually have our launch event. All right. So thank you so much for the opportunity. Still all in the aim that we enjoy peace, and happy International Peace Day to every one of us here. Thank you so much. And over to you. All right.
Thank you so much, Miss Ayomide. I hope I pronounced well this time.
Yes.
I thank you for the impact that you are making in the lives of young girls and young women. And before I move on, we have interesting community that is following us on YouTube, and allow me to share with you what they are posting here. From Mildred Makumbi, right from Zimbabwe, where I'm from. She says that I find healing in poems. Where I'm frustrated or angry, I pour the edge on the pen. Wow, Mildred. And from Wemba, from Zambia, she's saying, watching from Zambia, very insightful and engaging. And from Ralia Ali, she said, hello, I'm following right from Kenya. Thank you so much, YouTube participants. You are most welcome, and thank you for following in and for posting in the comments. It will give energy to those that are sharing. So in this point of time, allow me to brag a little bit about our last speaker. I would say she's a woman full of patience. Imagine she has been waiting patiently till this point in time for her to get through. So we are moving on to panel 4 with the topic Peace Start With You, Practical Steps for Everyday Peace Building. Allow me to introduce to you Mrs. Floriana Nyenkiko. Allow me to read her profile to you. I'm honored to introduce to you Mrs. Florian Nyunkeko. She is an expert in supervising peace, security, and gender-focused projects. Currently, she works with the International Conference on the Great Lakes region. She has also worked with international organizations such as the International Crisis Group, GIZC for Peace Service, Center for Research and Actions Towards Sustainable Peace and Development, as well as numerous local NGOs and universities. With extensive experience in capacity building and nonviolent conflict transformation, including the Alternatives to Violence program, non-violent communication, reconciliation, and critical thinking, she has worked with youth from diverse backgrounds, empowering them with knowledge, skills, and practical steps to become agents of peace. Ms. Florian holds an MA in Peace and Conflict Studies as a Rotary Peace Fellow from the University of Queensland in Australia. Her vision is a world where people find alternative ways to deal with conflicts without resorting to violence. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear Ms. Florian's inspiring perspective and learn from her the practical ways to build peace in our everyday life. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. I don't know if you are able to hear me, but when I checked a few minutes ago, it seems it was working. Thank you for welcoming me here. I feel very honored to be here. Please bear with me. I am very tired today, but I'm also very excited to do this presentation. Because when I was asked to do this, I was like, yes, I'm willing to talk about everyday peace building, because it's part of my motivation to do everything I do every day, actually. So greetings. I'm actually doing this call from Kigali, where I have been since yesterday, but I'm generally based in Bujumbura. Yes, so in this presentation, I will briefly talk about conflict and violence. I know Gloire talked about it in the first panel, but I will briefly go through it, and I will not be repeating what he already said. I will just add up. And after that, I want to discuss a little bit, what does everyday peace building mean? What is this everyday? And then we could exchange a little bit on what are ways to serve peace in our life, and then also give some practical examples, and end with my personal story of how I practice everyday peace building. So I think Gloire talked about how conflicts are normal, natural. Everyone has conflicts. We can all, from a baby to a very old person, we all experience conflicts. But I wanted to bring in the aspect of conflict being neutral. Two people can experience conflict and react in different ways. One could decide to pick up a gun and go shoot, while the other person decides to seek for ways to dialogue with the other party. So this makes conflict neutral. However, violence is when we make the choice finally to harm other people's physical security, their possessions or to harm the environment we live in. So therefore, today, because the world is experiencing a lot of violence, we sometimes forget that peaceful choices are also possible. We tend to think, oh, violence is a solution to our conflicts. What then peace building reminds us is it's a long-term process, it takes time, it intends to strengthen our capacities to solve our problems, our conflicts, our struggles without resorting to violence, finding all the other ways to solve our conflicts without going to the violent side. Then now the question is, how can then peace building be practiced every day? Because we tend to think, oh, peace building is for very known peace builders, people like Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, Matai, Malala, those people who have got Nobel Peace Prizes. But, you know, peace builders also live with us in our neighborhoods. It's all those people who put in efforts to achieve peace at the local level, but also why not have an influence on a global level, having started from what they can do, as Olive has just shared with us. She's a young person, a young woman who said, I cannot just sit down and watch this happen from the first generation to the next. I want to break the cycle. So all those people are peace builders. Gandhi said, we need to be the change we want to see in the world. And I guess the examples we've been hearing for the last 10 minutes of young people doing their part, actually, that's the concept, doing my part to achieve peace. I don't need to be the Secretary General of the United Nations. I don't need to be a president of a country. I don't necessarily need to be a director of a big institution in the country. I can do something and bring in the change. So my conclusion from all that is we can all be peace builders as far as we are serving our communities. So it's therefore everyone's responsibility to achieve peace, not just the politicians who sign peace agreements or the peace building organizations that have funds for peace building projects. It can be done by everybody. So our everyday efforts should be to achieve peace in our communities. So by talking about everyday peace, I think we also need to talk about everyday violence. So everyday peace comes from an awareness of everyday violence and a commitment to end the everyday violence and then walk towards everyday peace. So how can we serve that peace finally? I will talk about a few examples here. For example, leaving polarization and move towards understanding. People have very various experiences. We have not all lived through the same things. So we need understanding and sharing what we have lived through so that others also get aware of other realities. Another thing is also living together, trusting other people with the belief, as Gloire presented, that we all share the same needs, that we can agree on something and we can try to accept the weaknesses of others because others will be also ready to accept our weaknesses. And also accept to change the violence supporting beliefs. For example, if our cultures believe in discriminating certain people, if we go with what Gloire presented, as far as some people believe they are more worthy or they are worthier than others, we will always have violent conflicts. So the last thing would be to rethink how we understand peace. Peace could mean so many things to so many people. And at a point, I think Gloire also mentioned this, accept other people's understanding of peace. If what I understand as peace is not what other people understand as peace, being tolerant enough to also welcome those different perspectives. For example, some people have a very political concept of peace, being national security, which gives the government the monopoly of the use of violence, for example. But when the government is using violence against its own people, can we still say, for example, that it's a legitimate quest for peace? Those are questions that one can ask when we rethink on our definition of peace and its impacts. So practically, what are building blocks to peace? First of all, I think it's important to try to achieve a culture of peace where people believe in nonviolent means to achieving positive change in our societies. And to reach that level, there are different practical steps people could take. For example, being aware that peace is understood differently by different people, and that therefore we need dialogue, as Glory presented before. Also, everyone needs to choose sometimes to be different, because the systems we are part of kind of tell us things to believe in without necessarily those beliefs serving life. Sometimes we choose to do something because it's accepted in our society, but in the long run, it's not actually serving long-term survival of our race, of humanity, and so forth. So it's important then to sometimes choose to be different and defend very different positions that serve peace. The other thing we can do, sorry, I think someone's microphone is on.
Go ahead, Florian, they're muted now.
Okay, perfect. So another building block to peace could be effective communication, being ready to listen to others, but also share what is real, what is alive in us, for other people to also know what we are going through. Another thing could be to grab opportunities for capacity building in peace practices, in terms of knowing how, if I'm confronted with this situation, what are the choices I have? What are the peaceful, non-violent choices I can have in the face of aggression, in the face of violence? Being equipped with approaches, theories, techniques of solving conflicts without the use of violence. There are plenty out there. Sometimes young people, we just need to accept and join them and learn those ways. Also, everyday peace work can happen in different areas, like in schools, in universities, in churches and mosques, but also in our communities at large. Okay, so therefore, there are some gestures that we can have in everyday life. I just mentioned a little bit of some examples of everyday peace building, for example, and all of these have been examples I lived through. For example, helping a child to cross the street after school, or visiting a lonely person at the hospital, a very old person who has nobody to visit, or contributing little money to supporting vulnerable people in your club or in your association. Humanitarian volunteering, for example, into refugee camps, and so many other things that happen in our communities. Some people might think these are not meaningful examples of peace building, but trust me, these things can create a very big impact in the life of an individual that they cannot even be measured compared to the big initiatives. But also, some other examples of everyday peace building could be that finally, when we hold positions of power, maybe you are a director of a school, maybe you are a CEO of an organization, maybe you are a minister, I don't know, we are still young, but who knows in the next 10 years what we will be doing. In those positions of power, finally, we can also create spaces that allow for peace building work, but also a peaceful impact in our societies. If you are a president of a club, a choir, an association, what are the decisions you take? Do they take into account peaceful values of equality, of empathy, of caring, and so forth? So it's important to really reflect at what level am I doing peace building? Is it at a local level? Is it at a regional level? Is it at an international level? But at whatever level you will be, seek to achieve peace building in your work. So briefly speaking, it's taking part in both small and big initiatives. If you are at a local level, stay aware of what's happening at an international level. But also if you are working at an international level, keep in touch with local initiatives so that you can support when needed. So if I share my story briefly, I come from various experiences that shaped me, peace and conflict studies with a personal change of how I understand the world and its politics, but also critical thinking work where I am able to hold independent ideas when needed, especially for peace. If my friends believe in my country attacking another country, for example, I would strongly oppose that. I would never support it. And also I come from a background of alternative surveillance program. Glory, I think, they have introduced Gloire being part of this, so I will not focus so much on that. It's like anything except violence, really. If violence is a solution, maybe we are answering to the wrong question. Nonviolent communication in terms of listening and expressing myself and my feelings and my needs. Restorative dialogue, where we offer space to people for expression and understanding, especially people from conflicting parties. Study trips, where I am able to touch a little bit the culture and reality of other people, and so many other experiences. So what I now practice in my everyday peace building is, for example, now my work is not so much into peace building work. However, I find ways to insert peace building practices in my work, even if it's not specifically working on peace building. This came from an inspiration I got several years back of a woman who was a language teacher. So her job was to teach language to people, especially Spanish. What she chose to do was she decided, instead of teaching people vocabularies, grammar, and so forth, she decided to teach them peace building in Spanish, saying it would be more important for people to, yes, speak Spanish, but also be peace builders at the same time. So it was her strategy to kind of incorporate peace building in a domain that some people might think is not relevant to peace building, language teaching. So that's it for me. I know we may not change the world today, but the small actions we do today can create some changes that can make people ready for the bigger changes in the future. For example, this conference online, young people from very various countries. I was reading the chat before checking where you guys are from. It's so interesting to see how much such an initiative can bring so many people together. So I encourage you to keep it up, and happy International Day of Peace. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the powerful presentation, and the steps are very practical to follow. I really love the concept that visit lonely people, you are creating peace. Help a child to cross the road. These are the simple, small steps that you amount in great things. Thank you so much. So in this time, I think I'll go for the question and answer. So for now, I have one question from YouTube participants. The question goes on to Mr. Glory. The question is going to Mr. Glory. I will read the question. The question says, dialogues mostly involve the use of third parties, mediators. Which approaches can be applied for case of biased mediators to bring peace amongst warring parties? Over to you, Mr. Glory.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I saw the question from Patrick. He shared it with me. Then I would say that dialogue does not necessarily involve a third party person. I mean, unlike mediation, for mediation, there has to be a third party which will be neutral, impartial, and the aim of the mediator is just to facilitate the dialogue, and they don't take part in the decision, and they don't influence the decision which will be taken. They just like more kind of facilitation, try to bring these two people or this group of people in conflict together to facilitate the flow of the ideas and sharing. But dialogue is more like, it doesn't have a professional structure that this is how you should set yourself, like invite someone to facilitate the process. Though they can be a third party, but it's not like mandatory that there has to be someone. If you're in conflict with someone, you can still make a first step and say, hey, I want to talk to you, or you can reach out to the person, and then you talk, you set out the issue, and then you fix it, and it's over. But for mediation, of course, there has to be like a mediator, a third party. But of course, they have many things in common, since they all involve talking, sharing, and understanding each other's needs, listening to each other, and set out the problem. Maybe, I don't know if my colleagues have something to add to that question. That's how I approach it.
Same for me.
All right, thank you.
I support.
I believe, Godfrey, you have been helped with the explanation and with the answering. And so far, I believe this was the only question that I have. And we have come to the conclusion of Day 1, International Day of Peace Conference, African Young Leaders Foundation. Thank you so much, our amazing speakers. That was a very interesting conversation that we had. So here are my keynotes from every speaker that spoke tonight. So from Mr. Glory, I'll start with you. He says that we should never judge. We should never judge, because it results in conflict. Because peace is about maintaining, coming to an agreement when it comes to dialogue versus debates. And from Mr. Jato, our very patient speaker, he says that art is a powerful tool that can be used to build peace through creative expression, and also through poetry. We can bring healing to those that are living in the past that has been hating them. And from Mem Florian, she says that it is the small things that creates great things. We need to take the small steps, just like helping a child crossing a road, visiting the sick people. We can create peace through that. It does not need to start begging. Thank you so much. I will handle this time over to Mr. Patrick.
Sorry, there are some questions in the chat. I think you can check it.
All right. All right, we have more questions from Lemmy. He says that, can one bring peace in a country by using violent methods if dialogue and other peaceful settlements prove abortive? I think this will concern to all the speakers. Anyone to take on this question?
I could go ahead because I was anyway answering in the chat. I think violence being a choice, and like many other choices one could make in the face of a conflict, I think it's important to maybe analyze, why would I go for violence? Here, Lem said, in a country where other peaceful settlements have proven abortive, can we still use violence? There are so many examples of people who chose to use violence when other methods did not work. But there are also so many places where people resorted to violence as the very first solution they thought about. So I think it's important, if we are really reflecting in the long term, to kind of say, we believe as human beings, we have the same needs. If I am a mother, for example, the way I love my children is the same way another mother from another country loves her own children. If we stick to that shared humanity, I think it will be easier for us to not make choices that think it's me or them, because it could also be me and them together. We can all survive, we can all thrive, instead of thinking, if these people are still alive, my survival is impossible. And rather change our way of seeing, our beliefs even, into how life works, into how conflicts are resolved, and really take the courage to try something. There are so many examples, I don't know if time would allow, of people who have tried some things that everybody was thinking it's impossible, it has never worked, it will never work, but still this allowed for new ways of doing things that allowed people to come together, to achieve peace, to achieve reconciliation. Yeah, there are so many examples of forgiveness, for example, where someone, I was sure, for example, someone was going to harm me, was going to kill me. I was able to survive. This person comes back and seeks forgiveness from me, and I offer forgiveness. So those kind of examples, if we amplify those stories, it can change the way we understand, for example, having tried I can say it the other way around. If we amplify those stories, it can change the way we perceive violence as a potential solution to a conflict. Yes, thank you. I would stop by here, and if someone else wants to add up.
Okay, can you hear me? Maybe just to add little to what Florian has said. We see violence, when you use violence as a way to resolve conflict, it's just going to be for a short term. And meaning that you can use violence and maybe have an immediate result, which is not sustainable. And using peace or using a peaceful means is going to take a longer time. It's not something like, it might not give you maybe an immediate solution, but it's going to take a long time and it's going to be sustainable. And also, we need to also know that people use violent way of resolving conflict because they see violence as the only means of resolving a conflict situation. And if we try to look for other alternatives, there are a lot of alternative ways, because like it is said, when a carpenter has the only tool as a hammer, he knows that everything is a nail that is going to hit. So if there are other ways of using to resolve conflict. And also to know that violence is not an African way of doing things. Violence was being introduced to Africa by our colonial masters. Those people, the missionaries who bring religion to Africa, they are the people who introduce violence into Africa. So violence is not an African way of life, because somebody will say, if you don't treat the African child in a violent way, he or she is not going to learn. So that is not the only way. There are other alternatives that we can use in resolving our conflict. Violence does not last. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe a quick addition to what you said. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I recently learned that one trap that we fall into as peace builders or people who love peace is that we tend to think that we tend to see the world in a violent perspective. Because we are angry, we think that everything is bad, everything is messed up, the world is dying, there is violence everywhere, and maybe peace is impossible. But my professor told me that, bro, we can't see the world in that perspective, because there is at least something going on that as peace builders, we can also appreciate. There is some calmness, there is some peace. And if the world was in a violent perspective as we are approaching it, maybe none of us could be here. None of us could have grown to this stage. None of us could be in this live session. The reason why we are all connected is because at least in your town where you are now, there is power, or maybe there is some, at least a tiny peace or calmness that allows you to stay for this long, to be connected. Otherwise, we would all be dead if the world was all about violence. So sometimes you also need to acknowledge this, that we see the world in a peaceful perspective, because the reason why we have not turned into a violent world, that everything is turning around into violence, it's because we need each other, as we talked about in the session. We need each other as human beings at an Ubuntu level. I am because you are because I am. And this helps us to build at least some tranquility in the world, to consider each other's needs. And the person asks, what about countries at country level? Of course, I think at country level, they also have a definition of peace, as Florian said. There is a way we as individuals, we see peace, and there is a way leaders also approach peace. So, and the world is influenced by realism, global affairs, and all those things. So, from experience, I can say that violence has not worked in any cases, and it will not work. As Gandhi said, that violence can pretend to give you a direct solution, but the evil that it does is permanent, because people die in the process. People will be displaced, will leave orphans in the process, will leave widows in the process, will lose job, will lose territory, will lose all the social fabric gets deteriorated of the community. So it can tend to give a solution with a very short term, but in a long term, the evil it does is permanent. So the only thing I think we can do, the option we have, is to give peace a chance, to give dialogue a chance, to give nonviolence a chance. Thank you.
Thank you so much for answering the question. Once again, thank you so much for joining us for day one on the Peace Conference. At this point, this is where, one more question.
There is one more question.
Yes, one more question.
Maybe let me continue since I was talking.
Okay.
I see the person asks, can you talk about legitimate use of violence? I'll take it from two perspectives. in international relations and in political science, they define a state. When you talk about a state, it's like a state is an entity or an institution that is has the right to use violence. Like that's how people tend to think. Like a state is the legitimate institution that can use violence for its ends, for its means. But of course, it doesn't work that way because in nonviolent communication, there is what we call protective use of force. And in the nonviolent communication perspective is when you use force to protect someone. Like Florian said, a kid is trying to cross the road, but there is a big truck coming. And this kid is trying to go into the road, to jump into the road and cross. You can grab the kid with force, not because you want to punish the kid, but because you want to protect this kid. And that's where force comes in nonviolent communication. But for a state level, some states use violence to protect their citizens, and that's when dictatorship comes in. But of course, violence is still violence. However much you may give it names, sweet names, legitimized violence, or just violence, just war, violence is still violence, destructive use of force. But as long as we are using this force to protect, with the intention to protect, yeah, maybe that could work. I'm done, please. Maybe my colleagues have something to add.
This is an issue, I think, of a belief. And as we presented it in our different presentations, the aim of all this dialogue exchange is not to impose my worldview on everyone, but to welcome also those who believe, for example, that a state has the legitimacy to use force through the army or the other security forces that exist in the country or in the alliances that the country has signed. However, what I invite everyone to do, I remember at the beginning there was a discussion on should we celebrate the International Day of Peace in Africa, for example, and someone I know, Jackson, said it's a choice we make depending on what we are living. I think what this day for me means is a reflection time. It's not for me to go there and sing on the rooftop of a building that it's the International Day of Peace. It's rather a moment for me to reflect on what do I think today is peace? What does peace look like for me? And am I really going towards that direction of achieving peace in that image I have of it? But also question some of my beliefs. For example, if I believe that my state has monopoly in the use of force, what does it mean? What is the state looking for when it uses violence? And also, in some cases, we have seen the state using that force against its own people, against the people it has a social contract with. And from that moment, can I still hold the same belief, or I can also question it a little bit and try to find other solutions, and even if necessary, change my belief towards that use of force? Because once a person has that much strength, I mean the state system, once it has that much strength, as the people, how much leverage options do we still have when the state is using this force in the wrong way? I can use wrong in the sense, in the way that we do not find it important for us as people, for humanity. So I think to answer that question, we are all free to hold different world beliefs. However, this day should be a reflection time for us to see, to evaluate if this belief is still up to date, if there are no other beliefs that could be better than the one I have today. Yeah, I could submit from here.
I can see we're getting a lot of questions in the chat.
Yeah. I think there is one more question that you have just popped in. One more question. It reads, how do you view the resistance movement against colonialism? Were they acts of violence or legitimate self-defense? If we take your concept, which violence is violence? May you kindly, any of the speakers, over to you.
So yeah, maybe as my colleagues think of it, I can also say something. I'm coming to one of the points Florian said. Of course, the fact that a state uses violence or they have the legitimate monopoly of using violence doesn't mean that it is good. I think we need to understand that. The fact that, okay, the state is using violence because they just have power, they have the army, they have all the defense on their side, doesn't mean that it's good or it is a human thing, because that would be also abuse of power. But when it comes to this question of colonialism and maybe decolonization, as Francis Fanon says, all the process of decolonization, independence thing has come with violence because people had to resist the power of the settler colonialists. And that was the only option they had, because when your land is taken, when your freedom is taken and everything, they were not willing to collaborate. So these people had to defend themselves. That's why you see our heroes coming in, defending with all their energy, and many people died in the process. So I could say from an African perspective, I'm African, I know how the effects of colonialism, they did the right thing. Maybe that's the option they had from then. When it comes to this point, I think they did what they could. I don't know, maybe my colleagues will add, but what I'm just meaning is that violence is still violence. I mean, it can be justified in different ways. We can say, yeah, they did the right thing, defending the land, defending the people, defending the country. But did they use violence? Yes. Didn't they use violence? So here sometimes some activists will go for the means determine the end, and others will go for no, the end is much better than the mean. So no matter which way you use, the end justifies the mean. And others will tell you, no, the mean, the aim that we are trying to get, is it independence, will justify how we get there. No matter how we get there, we just need to get there. Others will say, no, regardless of how we get there, we should remain nonviolent, like what those of Gandhi did, and Martin Luther King with the civil rights movement in the US. I think most of them remained nonviolent in the process, like Gandhi, but he still achieved independence. Though, of course, there was a little like boycott and things going on, but at least they tried to remain nonviolent to the maximum extent. Yeah.
Thank you, Gloire. Emma, did you want to say something?
No, I don't want to say something because Gloire has said a lot. I'm also looking about the time.
Okay. I could just say a simple quote for us to reflect, because I consider this day as a reflection day. Gandhi once said that there are many reasons he's ready to die for, but there is no single reason he's ready to kill for. So in a way, we could, if we are really aiming to developing this peace culture, we could at some point reach a level where we understand that choices that people make are out of our control. We cannot change a lot about them. But what is important, as my presentation was saying, is what the choices I make. If the other person decides to shoot me, maybe I have no ways to prevent them from doing it. But when it's my time to shoot somebody else, there I have a power I could not shoot if I want to. So I think it's also interesting to see this in terms of what are my choices? Am I choosing peace? Or am I also contributing to perpetuating violence and its systems that are not serving humanity? That would be my last words. Thank you.
Thank you so much once again. I hope all the questions have been answered, and looking at the time, thank you so much for participating, for listening to all our participants. This is just the beginning. Tomorrow we have yet other powerful speakers that are waiting, and some of them we had them in day one. They were here listening quietly. We thank them for joining once again. And my last word to you, all the participants and the speakers, is have a blessed night. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for holding the space.
Yeah. For the
Good night.
notes, we can send them to Patrick. He can share them with the participants if that's okay with you. I saw like earlier someone mentioned that they needed the notes.
Yes.
The presentations. Yeah.
Okay.
And let's not forget to network and follow each other on social media.
Great.
Thank you so much. Good night.